Good afternoon, families. Miss Karen here. I just wanted to welcome everyone to our first Ask an ECE session of the year. I wanted to welcome all families and children who may be experiencing back to school this week. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you guys. So I wanted to introduce to you what the segments and sessions of Ask an ECE will be about. We're going to be here live every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. We invite families to send in questions that you may have about your child. Questions and topics that we might look at are child development, sleep patterns of your children, how to make your child more independent, as well as the importance of play. So we do invite questions that you'd like to be answered. If there's a specific topic that you would like covered, certainly you can email us. So our email is earlyon@ncdsb.com. You can also ask us a question on the comments down below. As well, you can message us through our Facebook Messenger. So for today's session, I'm going to take some moments as well to check out any of the comments. And after this session, I will be checking if there are any questions that you would like to cover for next week. So I'm just going to introduce myself again. For those who don't know me, I'm Miss Karen. I'm actually live right now from the Earlyon Center, and we do miss all of you, and we hope to see you all again soon. So today, I thought we should cover navigating your child through the going back to school routine. Now that could look like a lot of different ways for our families. That could be going back to school for your child, going back to school for their older siblings, or going back to the child care center, or perhaps it's your child seeing you going back to work while they stay at home. So I thought for our first session, we could cover some tips on how to help your child navigate this time, especially since they've seen a lot of changes in the last couple days and months. So there's some questions that parents might ask. How can I help my child get through this? My child is feeling worried. My child is feeling anxious. I've been home with them for the last couple months and now I have to go back to work. We see a lot of questions such as that. So I'm going to provide you guys with some tips to help out your children with that. So our first tip is number one, talk to your child and go over what your day might look like. So if you are returning to work or they're going to kindergarten for the first time, you want to go through the motions of what they're going to expect. You kind of want to paint that picture to them of what their day is going to look like. So if your child is going to be entering preschool, or if it's going to be entering kindergarten or daycare, now with the changes through the pandemic, you also want to include what they might see. So of course, you might want to include that you will see teachers or ECEs in masks, and they themselves might be wearing masks. Something else that you want to go over with your child is during the weeknights when you're at home, of course, as some of you might already be doing, is to set a bedtime and as well set a screen time curfew. Now, as you all know, as parents, limiting screen time can definitely help when it comes to maintaining a good and healthy sleep pattern, and it can also help with less disruptions during the night. So the third tip I wanted to provide is perhaps making a family calendar. Now you can make this fun and have your children help you with that. So something that we introduce in the schools, as well sometimes in the Earlyon, you can incorporate in your household, and that is called sequencing calendars. So it kind of looks like this. So you can make a family sequencing calendar that can help your child know what will happen next. It can certainly help your child go through routine. So here's an example. You can let your child know, Jenny, when we wake up, we're going to rise out of bed, get dressed, and then you're gonna brush your teeth, comb your hair, and eat your breakfast. Now, once you incorporate this within your family morning, they're gonna get used to it and you can make it fun. And you can also make a sequencing calendar where you cut up the pictures and then they have to know what's happening next, so you can ask them, what happens after waking up? And then your child might know at that point, it's to get dressed. So that's a way of making a fun and visual family calendar in which that you can make your child be an active part of it. It will also encourage them to think that the things that they have to do. So this is something that you can find online. You can do a simple Google search such as family calendar sequencing. You can also make your own. I've seen family sequence calendars where they use a picture of their own child. So if that helps your child recognize what their next thing to do is, then that's a great idea for you to incorporate into your weekly schedule. Our next tip that I wanted to bring up is during this time of the pandemic and going back to school, going back to new routines, you might even be homeschooling and it might be starting just after the summer, is to remember to model healthy coping. So of course, as adults, we all feel a little bit worried. We've all had a little anxiety, a little bit of self-doubt. So of course, our children must be feeling that too. So we want to model healthy coping so that our children know that it's okay to feel the way they feel and that they're going to get through it. So an example of that could be a conversation with your child such as, the pandemic has been hard, but I am thankful that I've been able to spend this quality time with you. That's a way for them to know that it's okay to feel unsure or doubtful about going back to school or going back to daycare, but to look at the positives of what this time has brought to your family. Now, going over modeling healthy coping, you also want to look at asking about their fears. You want your children to know that they are going to be in a safe place, whether they are at home, whether they are at school, whether they are at daycare or at their babysitters. That it's okay to ask questions and that you as their parent or adult are there to answer them and to let them know that they are going to be safe. An example of this could be, what worries you the most? Is there anything that scares you about going back to daycare? At that point, when your child tells you what they fear, you can help them feel more better and relaxing and knowing that it's going to be okay. An example of this is, every time mommy or daddy drops you off to school, we will come back to pick you up. So that's a way that they can work into their sequencing. So for example, once they know what their schedule is, like, after school I get on the bus. They're soon going to learn that mom, dad, grandma, or grandpa are going to be there to pick them up when they get off that school bus. So that's a great way to turn fear into trust and confidence. It may take some time. It is the first day back after summer and through this pandemic, but they will get there. Another thing that you want to bring up when you're asking about what they might be worrying about or their fears is to validate and accept your child's feelings. Let them know that it's totally normal to feel the way that they feel, and it may take time, but it will be okay. That's the number one term that you definitely want to use with your children. I know you yourself might feel worried, but just to reiterate that they will be okay. If today wasn't a good day, we'll try again tomorrow. So another thing you might want to practice is having something that reminds them of you. Now, I didn't want to bring up anything about bringing anything to school because I know during this time of practicing healthy safety measures that your children might not be able to bring, a stuffy or anything like that. But it could even be a symbolic thing that could be the bow that they're wearing. It could be a friendship bracelet that you give to your child. They can go to school with that and they can think, This is a hug from Mommy. This bracelet was from Mommy. And when I feel sad and when I miss them, I know that they're still with me. It can also be a simple symbol, such as I mentioned, a bow. So when you're putting the hair tie or bow in their hair, you can say, Mommy is sending all the love that I have in this pink bow tie I'm putting in your hair. So anytime you feel sad or you feel lonely or you miss me, just know that I'm here with you. So with that being said, going back to the beginning of sequencing, routines, and practicing family calendars, you might want to also practice your day with your child yourself. So if you haven't done this already, you can practice on the weekend or after school when everyone's home, and you can basically practice your day as if it's the morning of. So that goes back to our sequencing. So you can pretend, hey, what are we going to do now? Let's pretend we just woke up. Where do we find our clothes to get ready? So your child can go over to their bedroom or their dresser and go over and find their clothes where it's supposed to be. Then you can point and direct them to where they would go to brush their teeth. And you can keep going until you finally do the sequence patterns to leaving for your day. Now this is a great way for children to be able to visualize and not only practice for how their day is gonna go. It's best to do this definitely before the actual time that you're doing it, just so that you're not rushing. So with that being said, navigating your family and your children during this back to school season and pandemic time is not easy. There are some resources out there that I can suggest for you. Now I have 2 books that I highly suggest. You might have it in your personal library, but you can also probably find it online or at your local library as well. And those 2 books are The Invisible String, and this one is by Patrice Karst. Now this book is great because it covers an array of areas that you might want to teach your child. But when it comes to back to school, it's a great way to teach your child that even if you're gone for the day, even though you've dropped them off, you're not too far away because there's an invisible string connecting you. So that is a great book to check out. Again, that is by Patrice Karst. The next book that I wanted to suggest to you is called I'll Always Come Back, and that is by Steve Metzger. Now this book is about a mom telling her child that she's going to drop them off to their kindergarten class, and the child is very worried, very doubtful, very nervous. And the premise of this book is teaching the child that you're going to have your first period in class. You're going to go outside for recess. You're going to go and have lunch, but they will always come back. This is a book that I highly recommend. I've read this to my son as well when it was his first time going to preschool as well as kindergarten. So that is the end of the tips that I wanted to share with you guys as far as navigating your family and your children for back to school. Now we invite you guys to join us again next Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Again, we are open to so many topics that we can cover. If there is something in particular that you would like us to share about, it could be as simple as family resources that are open right now in the community during the pandemic. We definitely want to hear your suggestions and questions. So again, you can send those questions to earlyon@ncdsb.com. As well, you can comment down below if there's a question, and also send us a direct message. So I'm Miss Karen here. You will see another ECE next week, and we hope to see you guys soon. Bye.